I'd like to welcome one of Clark College's very own instructors and Clark College graduate, Mr. Nathan Webster.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Bruce, and also thank you for having me here. Thank you all for being here. I know you have paid me enormously well, so thank you in advance. Today I want to talk to you about something real simple called building your brand. So I do hope this is a dialogue. I know I'm in front, center stage, down from the stage. But I do want to talk with you and engage with you a little bit about what does building your brand look like. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to can we get a little hype? All right, yeah, get a little hype, a little energy, come on, I know you like. Okay, what is this guy talking about? All right, hey, we gotta get a little hype. Like, we're not going up to the club or nothing. I'm not telling you to turn up. I'm just saying, we're about to get it here, okay? So these are your three key takeaways that I want you to understand. And if you don't understand as I give you this presentation, well then please ask. Don't walk away. Don't leave this room without you not understanding the content that I'm presenting, because this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And if you don't understand, well then we have a malfunction, okay? So number one is your daily output is someone's profit. Your daily output is somebody's profit. Number two, creating your value is a choice, because number three, everything has a brand value. Now, if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 15 of you, 13 of you, which is almost half, you guys are representing brands. So we're going to go into that with the key takeaways. Again, 1, everything that you do, someone's profiting off of. 2, creating this value is a choice, and you can't have value unless you have brand. So let me get started. So everybody has a brand wake-up call. My brand wake-up call was about 5 years ago when I ran the Portland Marathon. Technically, I ran, then walked, hobbled, then barely crossed the line. It took me about 8 hours and 49 minutes to finish. Well, let me really set this up. So in 2000, I got out the military. I worked for a gym. They had 2 locations, and it's called Health Experience. And there's a lot of people that would go to the gym, and I worked front desk, and there would be a lot of people that would engage. And I'm a talker, so I would talk back, and that was my job, customer service, and it was what we did as people that worked at the front desk, was entertain the people that paid for the memberships, and this was a retention tactic to allow them to continue to come back, right? Because most of the time people pay for gym memberships and they never come back. But our job was to retain them. So one of the conversations I had with this older gentleman, he was like, Nathan, you're in great shape. I'm like, yeah, many cheeseburgers ago, I was in great shape, okay? But this is when I was in super duper shape, where I was running to the gym, which is 3 miles. I go work out, then run back home, that was just 3 miles. And I was really close from competing in Northwest Natural, but other things happened, blah, blah, blah. That's a different story. But this guy came to me and said, I did a marathon, Nathan, that changed my life. I'm like, dude, what are you talking to me? I'm not running no stupid freaking marathon. Get out of here with that. And then he was like, you should do it. So I was like, hey, look, all right, I'm going to take what you said, and I'm going to go about my life the way I think I need to do. But what he said kind of resonated with me, and this was about, this is around June/July. And if you know about Portland Marathon, which now it's another entity because one of the board members was funneling money, it was always the first Sunday of October. And so in the first Sunday of October, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do a marathon, but I want to do the 5K. And I didn't want to do it by myself. So I said, let me go ahead and do the 5K with some of my teammates here at the club. And I got the team, I got the club owners, which is the Mello brothers. They said, yes, we will sponsor you. We would allow you to do it. But at the time, one of the Mello brothers said, hey, Nathan, I'm sorry to let you know this, but you're past the deadline. You can't do it. And so for about 10 to 12 years, like every single first Sunday in October haunted me. Every single October just haunted me. Like, it haunted me like to no end. So when I was running this marathon, I was training for it. I was running on the treadmill, and now that I set this up, I want to make sure I give you this so you can get it. So I was training for it, and then there's at the 10, no, I think it's more like maybe the 10-mile marker when you turn around. I forget, and it's on like the main street now where like the bikes. NATO, is it NATO? I think it is the one closest to the waterfront. You were running that, and so you kind of turn around. We got kind of where the Pearl is at. You turn around, the half a marathon runners, the 13.1 folks, they were going down their way. We, the full marathon folks, we were headed up St. John's Bridge. And I was making good time. I was about 3 hours. My goal was to complete the marathon in about 6.5 hours, say no longer than 7. For my first marathon, that's actually pretty good. It's about maybe 13 to 15 minutes a mile. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing pretty good. So just keep going. And I remember getting to about right before the St. John's Bridge, I felt a little pain, a twinge, like in my lower left leg. And I remember it before, but I was training on the treadmill, and I would just stop. You know, I kind of take it easy. It felt like it was like a muscle spasm, maybe even like a pulled muscle. So I kind of messed it up. But one thing that I learned throughout my training for my marathon was I was running on the treadmill. That's a no-no. Can anybody tell me why?
Not enough support.
It's not real enough?
It's not real enough, right? So when you run 26.2 miles on the hardball, the concrete, your body has to get used to that pounding. So your bones need to get used to all that pounding. And so that's, when I got the military, I was running about maybe 30 miles, maybe anywhere from 20 to 30 miles a week. When you're training for a marathon, you got to increase, that's like double for, and of course it was out of like, I was chilling, having a good time, but it wasn't like, hey, my body was going to go through something enormous. So what happened was, I didn't know it, but I was having a shin splint. And so probably at the like 14, 15 mile marker where I was going up to St. John's Bridge, a person came to the side of me. Her name was Amy Lyons, and she was like, are you okay? Can I offer you some mustard? Because it's kind of funny. Everyone has their own. You got to have your little goodies, right? And so you want some mustard? Because I said I had cramps. How about some salt? I'm like, yeah, I'm taking everything because I'm like, I got to finish, right? And so by the time we got to the University of Portland, we're about maybe 16, 17 mile marker. This is where it's like no man's land, like where, whoo, this is hard. And so when I was training for it, a lot of people said, Nathan, one of the key things that you need to do in the very beginning, you're going to have a lot of adrenaline because people are going to be there. And, a lot of people take off and they bolt, right? And I was like, okay, pace yourself. And a lot of people passed me up. But as I was running, I started to pass some of those people up. But when I got to UP, I was like hobbling, like, oh my gosh, but you keep going. Well, when I got to University of Portland, it was like a shit wreckage of people, like all over. And a lot of these people were the people that passed me up. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, Amy, homie, I'm tired. Thank you, but I'm just going to chill here. I'm done. I see vans. There's a restaurant. I'm like, look, Amy, I'm good. She's like, no, Nathan, you are not going to quit. I'm like, yeah, I'm quitting. I'm done. Like, I can't keep going. This is it for me. She said, no, you said that you wanted me to take you all the way to the end. I'm like, Amy, look, this is University of Portland. We still got to go all the way downtown Portland. Yeah, no. I'm good. She said, Nathan, you're not quitting. Come on, let's go. I was like, okay. I'm going to go. Well, right before I was like making that decision, the guy that you see on the right hand to your right, my left, where I have my thumb up, there was a guy that was right there, and I was like, bro, come on, let's go. He was sitting there, I was like, no, I can't do it. Because again, like, by this time, they already said everything hurts. Like, everything hurts. Like, my pinky hurt. Listen, everything hurt, and you're like, you're done. Like, that's it. I'm not moving. I'm not going any further. And I told that guy, I said, hey, if you, like, you got to do this. Like, I'm hurting so bad, but you got this. And he started taking off, and I didn't see him again until I turned that corner. And so what was interesting is maybe like, yeah, you that exhausted. So from that point in time, when this is like my brand wake-up call, I completed this demon, this beast that held me back to where, like, again, this haunted me for 12 years. And at the 12th year, I said, I can't keep going because I'm getting older, and I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And this is, again, many cheeseburgers ago, when I could have done this in my sleep, I know how to really train for this. So what amounted to completing the Portland Marathon was I realized I was in a very unhealthy, toxic relationship. So I'm now happily divorced, but in a happily relationship now. What also resulted from that was I started an online learning system. I almost got sued. I created an ebook called The 10 Steps How to Be a Social Entrepreneur, How to Be a Social Entrepreneur, Create Your Nonprofit in 10 Steps. I also wrote a book called Scared to Be Me. I started a consulting business because when I started a company, I always went to consultants, but I always knew more than they did. So I'm like, I'm going to be a nonprofit consulting. But when I started this nonprofit consulting gig, I didn't have any cash. So I Ubered, and when I started to Uber, the money started to come in. But when I started my business, I one of the first calls that I got, because I wanted to do nonprofits and faith-based groups, I got a call from Miami or Florida. I got a call from Florida to say, hey, look, we want you to do our website. So, I was going to do consulting for nonprofits. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can do your website too. But then those folks was like, hey, I want you to also do our marketing. And so I'm like, okay, this is not exactly what I thought. So maybe 6 months ago, beginning of the year, I should say, I declared us to be a marketing agency versus a consulting agency. Then I started podcasting, and through the law of attraction and other things that I began to do, I started a nonprofit 101 here at Clark. But then it led into the Clark Business Instructor, where I teach Business 101. In addition to that, I'm also the advisor of the Entrepreneur Club. Woo. And to my Entrepreneur Club students back there, where we have the Clark Pitch Fest for those that have an idea or a product or service that you believe you can turn into a business. We are taking submissions up to October 26th. Go to clarkpitchfest.com. Go check it out. If you, again, have a business idea that could be a product or a service, and you want the opportunity to win $25,000, which will come from the University of Washington's business plan competition, please come see me or Heather or Marie and Beck, and we can tell you more about it. So far, any questions? Okay, you guys are pretty easy. So this is what woke me up. I finally accomplished a personal goal. But then I realized in my brand wake up, I was like, what the heck, Nathan? Like, you're working a job. Like, there's no brand in a job. Like, that's not, like, the saying is, no one ever got rich working a 9 to 5. What does job stand for? Just over broke. I was like, oh man. Like, when I heard that, I was like, oh man, what in the devil am I going to do? It's like, oh man, God, like, you got to help a brother. This don't make any sense, right? Because I just had my brand wake up call when I started that. So I went through all this. I'm telling you all what happened. But at the time it happened, I realized I was in a position that was not going to give me where I wanted to be. So the brand that I had did not give me the type of lifestyle. So because the lifestyle I wanted, I had to charge a certain amount, which are fees, I break down fees as your failure, experiences, and education. Now, we're all here because you're here to receive an education. As I tell my clients, some of you are walking billboards, right? You support the brands that you know, like, and trust. Obviously, you're sitting here because you believe that Clark College is going to deliver something that will help you get to the lifestyle that you're looking for. That's the goal. You didn't go to Bruce Elgort and say, hey, look, I want you to mentor me and I'll pay you X amount of dollars. I go in debt $50,000 to take me through this program that I don't want your degree. No, you went to Clark College. And you said that I want to go through this program because there's something about a brand that matters to where you said, I trust this. Something about our quality of life that says you are required to have this so you can get this. And so then I was like, you know what? Education is good, but it's not like experience. And experience is really good, but it's not like your failure. So I realized, and I don't know if Elon Musk was the first to say this, but he says you get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve. I was like, at my job, what am I solving? I'm just like a cog in the wheel. Like, I'm helping them solve the problem, but I'm not creating any solutions. I'm not going about any kind of thing that's going to allow me to get paid more than what I'm making now, which is a fee that I'm saying I'm worth this. Like, I'm not worth this. I'm worth more than this. And that made me think about, like, what is my yearly value? Like, what do I want to make for the rest of my life? Every year for the rest of my life. I mean, anybody want to rely on Social Security for the rest of their life? I'm glad to see no hands up. I know I can't afford Social Security to take care of me. And I'm not saying that we all have the same lifestyle, but I know we all have a certain, and maybe you just say, hey, look, I have these ideas, and you haven't penciled them out. But I realize, like, man, if I'm relying on this job, which is a good example is my dad. He retired from Portland General Electric in, I think, 1999, 2001. He went down to Texas, I think in 2004. He purchased he purchased land, built him a nice house. And then, guess what happened? What does that mean?
Is that the economy?
What happened significantly to the economy?
It hit bottom. There's a recession.
Like, there was something specific because I said he worked for PGE.
Enron?
Oh,
Enron. You guys know what happened with Enron?
lying.
Enron lied about how much assets they had. So my dad, who retired early, relied on his pension and, say, Social Security to take care of him for the rest of life. And you know what my dad's pension is from PGE now? A big fat goose egg. A big fat goose egg. Homie retired early. My dad put in serious amount of hours. He went from being a janitor, going to night school, to being a lineman, to where he educated himself to be a foreman, to being a GC, kind of like all that stuff, to where he was one of the top dogs in HR. Down in Salem, in the headquarters. We live in Vancouver. And he was driving every day back and forth to Salem. That was before computers, right? He would have a meeting in Portland, like at 3 o'clock in Portland on a Friday. Then he had to go back to Salem on a Friday, and then had to come back home to Vancouver. But it comes back to like, okay, now what does he do? Now we know the economy has changed. The disruption is here to the point to where you know good and well Social Security is not your number one plan for retirement. If you really begin to think about it, it gets kind of scary, which is why you're here, right? Which wisest choice? Mark Cuban said, sweat equity is the most valuable equity that there is. I mean, obviously these chairs aren't full, so not everyone's going to choose this lifestyle, but still, possibly, your output is going to be somebody's profit. I don't know about you, but that kind of makes me feel dirty. Like, that makes me feel dirty. Like someone's going to use and abuse me while they're chilling. Like your output, your hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, literally at times, it's going to be for someone's gain. I don't know what you, that don't make me feel good. That don't make me feel good, yo, for real. Because the saying goes, if you don't build your dream, you're going to help someone else build theirs. They're going to hire you, though. Don't worry. They'll pay you with your benefits, a 401k. But when they're out on their yacht, getting in their Lambo, getting into their jet, you're going to be working. Go let that sink in for a second. Right? Yeah, I feel dirty when people are like making serious butts on me. I mean, here at the Clark College, it's a nonprofit, so all the profits go back into the entity. So I'm not worried about Clark. But it does not make me feel so good. So I said, look, I'm going to dive into this entrepreneurship world where I'm going to have to risk it all, put all my time, all my energy, all my focus for the next few years because I had this wake-up call to say, hey, look, I'm going to live this life so then later down the road, I would have a nice return in the end. That was my reality check. So I said, Nathan, what can you think about of the brands that you recognize, that you know are successful? Does anybody not know one of those 5 brands? You know them all, right? Here, real quick, let me ask you, for the one in the middle, who can tell me what that brand is?
Is that Porsche? I can't see it. So.
I know you can't see it. Yes,
Yes, a Lamborghini.
Lamborghini. Let me ask you, is there a Lamborghini dealership here in Portland? You are correct, it's not. So what does that mean?
You got ordered. Or you have to drive to somewhere where you can get one.
So here, yeah. And really what I'm really looking for is basically Lamborghini believes that you can't afford it. Which is true for me right now. Right? Lamborghini knows this is not the market for it. Like Clark County, it's not the place you see Lamborghinis. I've only seen one Lamborghini one time. You seen 2? You seen 2 here, right? But if you go out to Portland, you're gonna see Lamborghinis left and right. You can fake, just go to 23rd. Go to 23rd. You see some Lamborghinis there. Now, not to say that you can't fake a Lamborghini, right? Because that costs some cheddar, right? But a Lamborghini, that's not for everybody. Like, I've never seen them run a commercial. So that means it's not for everybody. So I want you to think about like your brand. Are you for everybody? But for me, at this time when I had to recognize that I'm not where I wanted to be at, I've been around success a lot, but success is not about osmosis. What am my fees that I can charge people to where I've already seen it done? Right? Fees stand for what?
Figures, experience, and education.
failures, experience, and education. So more likely than not, you've been around a lot of success. If I just go to Bruce here, like Bruce has done almost about it all. But how many of y'all tapping on his shoulder say, hey Bruce, I need you to like break this down because I can't take it no longer. I can't be working minimum wage for the rest of my life. And Bruce will. He'll take you to pizza. He'll take you to coffee. But y'all feel like it's okay. I'm gonna get my education. You think education's better than experience. But Bruce has some failures that I think trump education. Right?
Oh yeah.
That, in his experiences has led him to his failures. So I'm sure he can help you. I'm just naming Bruce, but I'm sure there's other people in your life that has, like I've known people that have Lamborghinis. But how come I don't have one? Right? So all these things that I had this reality check, I'm missing it. I'm missing it. Like I have the opportunity to build my brand, but that's not what I went for. That's not what I saw. All these brands have something in common. And with this, we have this emotional connection. I kind of just gave it to you because I didn't want to spend too much time on this, which I really can. When it comes to my clients, when I help them with marketing, I say, hey, look, if you want your brand to be successful, you need to have the prospect. If you want to obtain a client or retain a client, you have to resonate with them in some way, shape, or form with an emotional connection. Now, you can say religion is a great way to do it. You can use food, culture, politics. Politics is a juicy one right now, right? Music, fashion, lifestyle. But all of these, the brands that I mentioned, you all have an emotional connection to in some way, shape, or form, which is why you know them. So let me make it a bit personal. So when I was going to school here, or going to college period, I worked at Nike Security. I did security from graveyard, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then when I got done, I drove here, and sometimes my classes didn't start to 9 a.m., so I parked in the Bauer Hall parking lot to get a quick little nap. And, those are good times. But one thing changed my life, and I'm like, God, why am I here? And right here is the control room for the security. The bottom left is the control panel. To when we got an alarm, we would respond to it. Well, I worked there from 01 to 07. About halfway through my career at Nike, we started to get calls from the hangar. And I think this was, the economy, they were like, we have this external security company, but why not use us security? Because we were contract. Well, we weren't contract. We were actually Nike employees. So initially, it used to be managers that went out there. Anybody know where Nike's hangar is at? No? I didn't know they had a hangar either. But their hangar, they're located in Beaverton. They're out in Hillsboro. So it's about a 20-minute drive. And so you had to go out there, and man, when I went out there for the first time, in the bottom left, the bottom right, you drive up, and I'm like, oh my God. When did we get this? I built Nike or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, whoa. Whoa. And people already went out there, so they kind of told me about it. And it's oh, okay. We have all these buildings named after athletes. Okay, so I met Tiger Woods, and you met okay. But nothing was more eye-catching, jaw-dropping for me is when I went to the Nike hangar. My first couple of times, there was no jets in there. So you can see the jets as soon as you go in there, like when you drive up. But there was this one time, and we were supposed to stay in the lobby area, just make sure all was secure. But I was like, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so that means I took a couple of risks, and I started snooping around. I started to walk around, and I don't want to say snooping because I didn't break any laws or rules or anything, but I did sit and film Knight's Airplane. And I'm like, wow. This was before I knew companies could have private jets. I was like, whoa. I was exposed to a whole nother world and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even understand the significance of Nike having a freaking jet to bring people to and from campus. One thing that I started to see, the more and more I went out there, because they were starting to get more alarms out there. So instead of us going to the Nike campus, we were just saying, hey, look, it's Tuesday, so Nathan, you just go straight to the straight to the hangar. I'm like, yes, I get around to be all this ambiance. Because what happens is people would fly in from a Nike jet, and that would be one of the first things that they saw. The first impression of Nike. Like I said, about 2004, 2005, one of the coolest things I ever saw, and you can probably, when someone has an answer, just blurt it out. But I saw a really cool invention. It was this big ball, it had coffee beans in it, and all you had to do was put a cup in there, and you push a button, and it started making coffee. And it has Starbucks branded all over it. What is that invention called today? Huh?
It's a Keurig.
A Keurig. Yeah. This is 10 years before it was available to the public. I was like, what? I didn't I was like, how do you get this? And people were like, oh, it's only for Nike. Wow. Right? But I started to become exposed to all these things. So when I started to become more exposed to it, what I didn't realize, and this is a business term, the 5 factors of production, I started to understand, which I didn't know what it was, but I started to then understand what Nike was doing. And what Nike was doing, man, I wish I would have known, because man, I would never have left there. I would have found a way to be one of their VPs. But 5 factors of production. This is one of the economists say, if you want to build wealth, you need these 5 items. You need land, labor, entrepreneurship, knowledge, and capital. And when I started to see and I didn't know at this time, this was before I took any business classes, I started to see how much land Nike had. Nike said when I was working there, they weren't going to build another building. Tiger Woods Conference Center was going to be the last building they built. I went out there a couple of years ago, and I seen cranes all over the place. They were also building. This is when Tiger Woods was at his height, and they had to get a whole building campus off of campus. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Are they really this successful? So I started to see this recipe of Nike as a brand, and I was bored at night. After I wasn't supposed to do my homework, but I did my homework, and then I did my homework. I would be around all this greatness, and I started to read about it. I started to learn about the story. Started to understand why Nike was Nike and why they had the brand that they had. Anybody know when Nike was created? We'll get to it. So what I had to understand was I had to change my mindset. Even though I had a wake-up call, I still had a consumer mindset. So there's only 2 types of people in this world. A consumer or a producer. Who can read to me the first definition of what a producer is? Not everyone at once, just one person. Just one person.
A person, company, or country that makes, grows, or supplies goods or commodities for sale.
So you're either a consumer or a producer. If you're consuming, that means you like right now, if you're a consumer, you're just thinking about, man, I can't wait to get home so I can like watch some TV. To consume. I can't wait till I get out of here, man. I can't wait till I can get me a beer. I hit up the happy hour and hit up that pizza shack up the street. What are you about to do? Consume, right? I can't wait because there's a sale. Sears is going out of business, so I can't wait to get some of that stuff. What I'm about to go do? Consume, right? I can't wait to where I just go in my car and I just drive to the beach and just have a good time. What are you about to go do? Consume. Who's here say, man, I can't wait to get home to write a chapter in my book? Who's here think, man, I can't wait till I get home so I can develop the other lines of my code for my app? There we go. I got 2 hands. Who's here say, I can't wait to get home so I can build the dessert to my 5-course meal? Right? Again, so you have this mentality of consuming because that's what we're taught. Even education, you're taught to consume. You're taught to consume. Very rare are your professors, teachers, are teaching you how to produce. So for me, I was like, man, I gotta produce. Like, that's it. And I started to produce here at Clark, because at the time when I was going about my computer science degree, I was like, oh man, I'm going to get an internship at Nike. I'm already in the door. I was networking because I was a CS major, so I didn't know all these business terms. But I was networking before I knew what networking was all about. So I got into an internship to be a CS as a CS, and I didn't know. So at the time, like Nike's like 60% of Nike at the time. I don't know what it is now, but a lot of them were programmers. And I was like, okay, well, I just need to be get that done. I got in the door, and long story short, I got to my final interview, and at my final interview, they said, Nathan, sorry, but we can't have you be an intern. I'm like, what? Like, why? He said, I want you to think about something. And we're on the phone because he knew I worked there at night, so don't bring me out there to show me the whole ambiance. And Nike's a mecca of sports, and I'm already there, and I'm in Vancouver, so let's just do what's traditionally speaking, they would have brought me out there and kind of wooed me, but just do this over the phone. So I'm excited, before I'm going to lay down to take my nap to get ready for my shift at 11. And he said, I want you to think about this. He says, is this your first Nike position? Or is this your first security position? I was like, no. And he was like, so you've done security before, right? I'm like, yeah. I did. I'm like, sure. I did, yeah, like, duh. He said, so do you think what did he say? He said, so was this an entry-level position for you at Nike? I was like, no, you need a lot of experience. And he says, so do you think any position here at Nike is entry-level? I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. He says, yeah, you don't have any experience. That crushed me. That crushed me. I'm like, so what do I have to do? Because I didn't want to be completely downtrodden. He says, well, if you really want this internship, you're going to have to quit Nike. You have to get experience and then come back. And that's even if you get this opportunity again. But we can't promise that you will. Like, I networked my way to that opportunity. I was like, man, I'm just going to quit school. And so I had this is when I was going to school here, the president of the college was up in Geyser. Pub wasn't even done, but I was like, let me just see if I can talk to someone that could understand. I wanted to be one of the first black computer scientists that I knew. I had a lot of ambition to help my community, blah, blah, blah. And I was just completely, as you can tell, I get a little PTSD about it, because I was just so disgusted with, like, man, I don't want to start at the bottom again. Like, I have to start at the bottom. So Dr. Ray Branch, the president of the college at the time, I just asked him to walk with me. He was a PhD, the first black PhD that I ever met. I was like, man, this is cool. And he was like, do you mind if we walk? And I was like, sure, we can walk. We walked. It was a nice day like today. We walked all around campus. And I probably remember about maybe 2 sentences he said. I was gonna had my GI Bill. I couldn't have fell out of my GI Bill. That helped me with my living. And I was just like, I was at a point where I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna finish school. I don't know if I'm gonna continue on this job. I might go back into the military. But he says, Nathan, don't stop. Don't quit. This too will pass. And that gave me the impetus to say, okay, well, let's change my major. Let's try something different. So plan A was for me to, because when I started to think back about all the things I wanted to do, I said plan A didn't work out because I was going to be a Marine to the day I die. I was going to be a 30-year lifer, but I did my 4, and I'm out, deuces. And I was like, okay, so not everything works out. Plan B, when I started at Clark, I started a nonprofit, and I wanted to start a nonprofit because I wanted to help kids like me. When I was 16, I wanted to be in a gang, but I would have been dead or in jail. So I had a friend that wouldn't let me do that. So this was a time where I didn't have kids. Mobile technology was not at the height it is now. So there was such thing called 3 to 6 after school period. Now there's no, it doesn't matter. Parenting was different. And so things changed. And just earlier this month, I just let it go. But it gave the 501c3 status to somebody else. So I can't even tell you what plan I'm on, because I've had, just with those 2, were very concrete. I was solid. I had a lot of success with that. But I had other ideas, other plans. But I said, you know what? I had to dominate. When I completed that marathon, I was like, I have to stop competing and begin to dominate. And I mean, stop playing around. It's my time. I have to go after it. No one's going to give it for me or to me. It's not going to plop down in my lap and make I had to go and produce the results that I wanted. It is not this is not to be a motivational speech. Let me make sure you understand, no one's going to do your homework for you, right? So this is just like my clients. No one's going to put your brand out there for you. No one's going to wear my logo for me unless I pay you, right? Because right now you probably wouldn't buy it. Right? So no one's going to put this out there to the masses unless it's something they're getting in return. Because I say, hey, look, there's a lifestyle that I want to live. So I'm like, all right, man, bet. Let's go. Let's do this. So I'm like, it's time for me to fully live up to being an entrepreneur. So this is, for those that can't see it, it says, an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. It was time for me not to have a safety net, period. When you start something and when you're passionate about doing it, you're all in, 100% all in. when I had my brand wake-up call, I was still on the mindset of consuming, not producing. So I'm like, I believe it would come along, but no one was promoting it more than me. And I wasn't fully 100% committed to it because I wasn't ready to jump off the cliff for it. Was not. So when I started to understand all about my success and failures, my failures began to teach me something. So I said, Nathan, take everything that you learned. And so I had to start blasting out this content. I had to blast content like crazy. In business, what's king?
Content.
Communication.
Bruce, you told me what was king in the digital world is content.
Content.
In business,
Trust.
cash flow. Cash flow is king in business. Because if you don't, like I said, I had an Uber. Because one of the first things when you start, let me just be honest, before you start a business, you have to start putting out that money. You got to start putting out that money. Your business gets paid before you do. So you got to start producing that money, else you're going to go out of business. That's why profit is a big deal. So one of the things, though, I had to create for my brand to get out there was content. Because in the digital world, content is king. So you all got computers, got cell phones, right? There's some content you can't wait to consume. Somebody created it. Either a product or a service, it's now content for you to consume. Again, somebody's making a profit off that, or if they're not making a profit of it, they want to have a piece of it. I think, is it today, the openers of the Trailblazers and Lakers? Is it today? Tomorrow. I know yesterday was an NBA opener, but how many people, businesses, would love to be a sponsor, have their name in lights, or if you're a restaurant, to be in that arena? Right? Somebody wants to profit off of it. Right? So what I learned from Nike, and this is something that Phil Knight, I think it was last year, either last year or this year, just put out this book, The Shoe Dog. Nike is not Nike, Phil Knight has been a very secretive person. Like, you couldn't find much out. So when he put out this book, I haven't read it yet. But I'm sure it's going to be a lot of the things I already know, because we weren't allowed to read in bunkers in the control room. And so I read a whole bunch of Nike stuff. There's a building called the C.P. Fontaine Hall, and it has a lot of their history in it. And then throughout on the South Campus, you have a lot of pillars, and in those pillars, you have faces and you have stories about it. So part of the intranet of Nike was I just started to research and look into all these people, and I was just amazed with all Nike had to go through. Like, I don't know how much you knew, but Phil Knight was denied the idea to, or I should say, not the idea, but Phil Knight was denied the lending opportunities here in the U.S. I don't plan to steal any thunder from this book or from what you will find from here, but I had some notes that I just want to go over from Phil Knight that I couldn't remember all, and I didn't want to get them messed up because a lot of them had to do with numbers. So, as of today, real-time net worth, and this is on Forbes or Business Insider, Phil Knight and his family is worth $32.6 billion. So that's number 16. That's number 16 on Forbes. As for billionaires, he's number 28. In June 2016, he retired as chairman, and I was there when he was going through all the different opportunities for all the retirement folks. Oh, Bruce, we're done at 5?
Anytime you want.
Okay, so he was going through different folks because he wanted to retire from the CEO, and he just now retired as a chair. But I think Mark Parker took over the CEO in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, and now 2016 he walked away from the chair, and that's a big deal. He completely walked away. Nike was founded in 1971 as Blue Ribbon Sports. Blue Ribbon Sports, okay? In 1973, their revenue was $28.7 million. In 1973. And I should say, make sure I give you not all the accurate data, but Phil Knight is a co-founder. Anybody know who the other co-founder is? Bill Bowerman. Phil Knight pays a lot of homage to Bill Bowerman. So I take it there's no runners in here. Nobody knows who Bill Bowerman is. He was Phil Knight's head coach at the University of Oregon. Phil Knight graduated from University of Oregon and Stanford, and he was Phil Knight's running coach, and he made shoes, the shoe console, the outsole, which was made like out of his waffle maker of rubber, and that was like the first shoe that they created. So when you look at the shoes, they kind of have that waffle imprint. That was from Bill Bowerman. And so they would sell shoes from out of their car, and in 1973 they made $28.7 in revenue. In 1983 they made $867 million. Anybody knows when they signed Jordan? 85. So this was before Jordan. In 1991, they were at $3 billion. So the most important thing, and this is, if I can wrap this all together, where am I at? If I wrap this all together, Phil Knight told the Harvard Business Journal in 1992, the most important thing we do is market the product. He said, marketing knits the whole organization together. The design elements and functional characteristics of this product itself are just part of the overall marketing process. So when you think marketing doesn't matter, like your resume doesn't matter because you're pitching yourself, or when you think your social media is not all that valuable, it really is. Because at the end of the day, if you're not using your brand, which you can say, hey, look, you can be one of those people who say, hey, look, I'm not going to own my own business. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to do it. That's fine. That's fine. But know that someone's going to make a profit off of it, so make sure you get your share. Make sure you get your share because at the end of the day, it's a choice. And I bring this back to Bruce because Bruce is a great example. And I don't think he's wearing it. What jacket are you wearing today?
I'm wearing my IBM Champion jacket.
So, how much value do you guys think that jacket has? Could you buy it in stores? Do you think you can buy it from the IBM swag store? Raise your hand if you think you can. Y'all just don't want to raise your hand to be wrong. Right?
Yeah, they're quiet. They are quiet today. Yeah. Don't worry, questions and answers are coming.
You think you can? Okay. So that's awesome. So thank you for being honest. So real quick, Bruce, how can you get that jacket?
The IBM Champion program, like the Microsoft Champion program, like the AWS Champion program, is based upon nominations based upon work that you've done to help the brand and promote the brand and support and market the brand. And then out of hundreds and hundreds of nominations, a percentage, probably 30% of those nominations, is turned into awarding of a champion nomination to an individual. And then at that point, you get to pick which swag you want, right, from a list. And the jacket is one thing that I go for, in addition to a placard, in addition to maybe a journal and things like that.
So what Bruce is not telling you, he's one of the top folks. And if you ever follow Bruce's feed, he never stops producing. So he makes a choice to continue to reinvent himself every single opportunity. And you have a gym right here in front of you, but you probably don't know it because he's not about that life. He's about the life without giving back to others. So at the end of the day, everything has a brand value. You just choose to where you decide to give it to. So with that, and I know my time is about it, but I just want to just put a plug in just for sometimes, just like with me when I was at Nike, a lot of greatness just went over my head because I was completely absorbed about what I was doing, what was important to me, kind of self-absorbed, selfish, egotistical. Yeah. Until I said, I want to learn. I started doing informational interviews. But by that time, I didn't have all the time. But for those that you all want to go into anything web-based, Bruce is your guy. So make sure you use him as he's a true asset. That's a person where most instructors, if he doesn't teach, he's going to be perfectly okay. Any questions?
Oh yeah, they have questions. We have 50 minutes for questions, so let's go.
What's the NW for?
That's a great question.
Nathan Webster, right?
Nathan Webster. But don't
Where?
worry. That's people like to say Northwest.
That's what I said when he first asked me.
So what is it that you produce?
So
What's your product?
So I do consulting, marketing, and websites. Initially, I started off doing nonprofit consulting, grant writing, but it evolved to where I do websites and marketing for clients.
How do you get your name out?
That's a great question. How do you get your name out? Every single day you have to produce content. And
On what?
it's up to you. So this is up to your strategy. You have to determine what do you want. What do you want to be known for? So there's, back in the 90s, I think it was the 90s, you had this show called Jackass, I think it was.
MTV Jackass.
MTV Jackass, right? And did you ever watch that show?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so some people know what it was. And all they did was be jackasses, right? And so now reality TV is kind of dwarfing kind of all the other stuff that maybe might be a little bit easier for you to, easier now names are coming into where it kind of help tell that message, but it's up to the strategy of my client or you as the business. So you have to define, are you a business or do you want to be a lifestyle brand? I mean, it's really up to you how you want to go about that.
One thing, Nathan's on Instagram, and every day I go through my Instagram feed, and there's a minute of what you heard today in 60 minutes as an Instagram story. And I'm always picking up all these tidbits from that minute of Nathan, whether it be on Instagram or your podcast about entrepreneurship or a Facebook post or a tweet, whatever. But it's just those constant dribble, right, of goods.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
First thing I learned in Nathan's class, it was the first class I ever took, was to get on every media site you could and put content out there.
And to be honest to you, I mean, if I be completely transparent, you can do whatever the hell you want, but you need to be consistent. That's what people lack, is they go like, I had a client not too long ago that said, hey, look, I need to use a social media channel for my resume. Which one can I do? Even though I didn't stay up on it, like you can't cram. That's what my weightlifting coach was saying. Like if your bench press max was 150, I'm setting you to be at 195. If you don't show up in this 10 weeks, you just can't cram to push up 195. The same thing with any feed. There's a history that tells a story. And in today's society, it's all about binging. So you need to have enough content to where you can tell a story where people can binge on it so they know you without actually shaking your hand.
So the struggle that I always have is finding words. So how did you learn to do that? How did you practice that?
You don't seek perfection, just seek consistency. Don't get caught up. Like I don't have, this would be something perfect for me to chop up, to use a sound bites, to create a pitch deck for, use as a podcast, but I don't have the folks to help me out with that. So I have to go out and create it on my own. And it's totally okay, but this is what social media has done to a lot of people is they give them this false image that it's all this when it's you just documenting. You're just taking this a moment in time, and it literally takes 1 minute, right? All it takes is 1 minute, and there's 24 hours in a day. So my advice to you is don't get so caught up to where it has to be perfect. And maybe this starts with, hey, get a whiteboard and get a piece of paper and say, my goal for this month, here, like I tell you what NW and Associates is doing for the fourth quarter, our message is social media. So we're gonna blog about social media. Some of my podcasts will be about social media. Some of my messages would be on social media. And so this is where you can take, hey, this quarter, for the fourth quarter, it's going to be about what Bruce's class is about and what does that look like. And so you can take that either, there's 3 forms. One is written, 2 is image, 3 is video. At the end of the day, you need to connect with people emotionally, and you can either do that by 3 ways: inform, educate, or entertain.
What's the name of your podcast and what can we listen to?
So my podcast is on iTunes and SoundCloud. It's called Social Entrepreneur with Nathan A Webster.
How did changing your company into a marketing agency change your business? Or has it?
That's a great question. So I really wanted to be a consultant, the consulting agency, but I didn't want to be like the expert because it's like too much pressure. But when I started to realize that a lot of people would say, I need consulting, but they really need marketing. And consulting, a lot of the consulting that I was giving had a lot of marketing. So I realized that we are really more a marketing agency more than we were a consulting agency. This side of the room.
What started you into podcasts? Well, why did you choose that route?
That's a great question. So, there's a certain dollar amount that I need to make to where I can be comfortable for the rest of my life. And I heard someone say, you would be underpaid until you're overpaid. And so the only way that, like I tell my clients, you have 3 phases to go through. If you want to obtain a client, they have to know, like, and trust you, but you don't know what you don't know. And so I started the podcast so people can get to know me, so I can get my name out there. And which is a really good question, because I wanted to grow my nonprofit, and I just wanted to be like local, but I'm on like I'm being listened to on every single continent, and I have more success so far internationally than I do locally. So I didn't realize I was going to be a global brand, but I take it. It's cool.
So did you have a portfolio, or did you have to make one at some point?
What do you mean by a portfolio?
The work that you had already done, or did you need to show something to people to say, this is the stuff I can do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people, if they pay you, you need to show them that you're competent enough to deliver on the services that you said that you can deliver on. So initially, it was just my ability to speak to it. But then as we continue to grow, I was able to show, because I can show you some websites, but one, they're WordPress, and two, not everybody keeps them up on like the content, the richness of it, the engagement piece of it. And not everyone picked a sexy template, so I only have so much power in that. So what I started to do, I just did video recaps for interviews. So when you go to my website, it would show our works, and you will see the different clients that we've helped. And that honestly has sealed the deal for a lot of different new prospects, because they're like, okay, this is just not rich, like I could write anything. But two, we work with, I think our youngest client was 21, and our oldest client is 80. So, and you get all different types of ways people want you to help them, which is another reason we went to marketing, because like we do admin work, but once you get people to trust you, they don't want to work with anyone else.
So how does admin work?
Admin work. So a lot of small businesses have a lot of paperwork because they just don't like doing it, filing, organizing, collating, and then also balancing, say books. And so we have that expertise, but I mean, that wasn't the first gig that we got from some people. It took them some time to get to know us and say, okay, we have these problems too. And we're like, whoa, hold on.
So do you have any like tips for networking, getting your foot out the door, kind of?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, know what you want. You have to know what you want. If you don't know what you want, because people are going to ask you, and when it gets really scary, because you say, hey, like, you tell people what you do, but then they're going to say, okay, that's awesome. What do you want? Some of these places can create a job for you. Not always is that going to be the case, but sometimes they say, hey, look, you're hungry, why not? They'll create the opportunity for you. But then I would say, after you figure out you know what you want, I would just get out there and talk with the people you know first to say, can you introduce me to that person? Like, do your own scouting report. Say, I want to get to know this person. Can you introduce me to this person? Because it might be like a leapfrog to say, Bruce, I need you to introduce me to some key players in Amazon. And Bruce is going to say, okay, what type of key players at Amazon? And so you're going to say, oh, I want to be like a Stack developer. So like, okay, like what expertise are you at Stack? You get what I'm saying? Or like, I want to sell my app to Facebook. Okay, so what does that look like? So you need to, people want to know, first and foremost, are you going to be a fountain to their bottom line, or are you going to be a drain? And if they think they're going to be a drain because you don't know how to like manage self-care, be motivated, engaged to their business, well then they won't hire you.
All right.
Do we have any other questions for Nathan today? Oh.
So is it true that you still need to keep your personal and your professional social media separate?
I wouldn't.
No?
I know people have, like, I do delete two, when people have like two different Facebooks, I delete them. So I think it was 2016, 2015. I don't remember when Google said we're going to start to index social media platforms. So the power, like companies, they're going to find it, right? So, and matter of fact, I get this all the time. People say like, oh, I'm applying for this job and I had an interview. Guess what? They just looked at my LinkedIn profile. Yeah, it's common. It's a red flag if you have to. It's a red flag if you don't have a social media account. It's a red flag if you're like not authentic. It's a red flag if you don't post on a regular basis, because let's face it, social media is the norm. If you're not, then like, you maniac, why aren't you on a social media platform?
It's a good way to like convince the client that your product's not an expense and it's an investment to the business.
Oh, bro, that's $1 million question. That if you can't show them that immediately it's going to bring them a profit, like today, you say, hey, look, I have this for you. You can put it in your showroom. You can put it in your online store, and we'll start selling today. If you don't have that, which in the case you do want to be able to show them sales, if you can show them sales, that's another way. But if you don't have that type of success, more than likely be ready to do something for free.
Anybody else?
Great questions.
Yeah.
Man, they took them a minute to warm up, but that was a great question.
All right, let's give a big round of applause for Nathan. Thank you, Nathan.